Week 8 has arrived. Our Dolphins return home this week, wrapping up the season series with the New England Patriots. Obviously, back in week 2, we already took the first one in Foxborough, got that one out of the way before it turned cold out east. Good to get that one under the belt, but now we got to take care of business on Sunday. Super important game because, as you know, I'm recording this Saturday morning, but already on Thursday, the Buffalo Bills took care of business against the Buccaneers. So we've got to maintain that game lead over the Bills. And by the way, we got to keep Tua his record against Bill Belichick unblemished as well. Let's keep that puppy perfect as well. But this is the final Dolphins-Patriots preview prediction video. We're going to discuss latest team news, some injury updates. We're going to hit the viewer questions that were submitted. We'll get to our final score predictions, but that's where you come into play. First, foremost, as always, if you haven't gotten subscribed yet, make sure you are doing so. And then let's hear your final score predictions. Let's get a bunch of predictions for the Dolphins winning this one against the Patriots. In the comments, let's carry on the conversation there leading up until game time. As always, the full injury report that was released on Friday will be going down on the scroll for a little while here. But I tell you what, I am calling this the week of the questionables. And if you've seen the injury report, you know why. We have a run, and I mean an absolute run of players that are listed as questionable. It's not just everyday guys either. We've got a lot of guys between IR and between the injury report that are listed as questionable. Just a ton of good talent on this roster that we need to get back. I'm not going to hit on all of them, but some of them that stood out to me. We talked about River Craycraft. His 21-day window to return has officially been activated. Hopefully he can contribute sooner or later. We know that he's not going to get peppered with targets like a Jaylen Waddle or a Tyreek Hill, but man, is he a security blanket for Tua. He's always in the right spot. Look at how many targets he has versus how many receptions he has. The dude is always relied upon by Tua and always comes up strong. Javon Holland, as of recording this, still in concussion protocol. Obviously, he can't clear. He wouldn't be able to play. Xavien Howard was told that he actually probably has a pretty solid chance of playing in this one. We'll see if they keep him out for a more of a higher class of opponent next week against the Chiefs, but we'll see if he is back. And then you got more secondary guys as well. There's a common theme here. A lot of guys in the secondary. Jalen Ramsey, Nick Needham, two guys that we haven't seen so far yet this year, but appear to be close. The whole Adam Schefter, Jalen Ramsey thing from a couple of days ago was sort of funny. Schefter was like, yep, Ramsey's making his debut. And all of a sudden Ramsey was like, nope, I don't know where you got that from. So we will see on how that goes. As of right now, I almost think they'll give him another week. But like I said, listed as questionable. We'll see how that goes. Connor Williams told he is also very close. Hopefully he can go. If he cannot, once again, it'll be Liam Eichenberg at center. We're likely looking at Lester Cotton again at left guard and then Kendall Lamb at left tackle. So hopefully Connor Williams is very close. But the good thing that you didn't see on that injury report is the two receivers, and that's a hint at one of them. Tyreek Hill with the hip off the injury report. Jaylen Waddle off the injury report. And the one I really want to tackle here is the Jaylen Waddle one because dude's been battling through it. Week 2, the concussion. Go back to the offseason with the joint practices. He hit that midsection injury. He has been battling through injury after injury. Now he's got the stuff going on with the back. Hopefully he can get some time. The bye week can't come soon enough for when you have injuries like that. So hopefully we can survive this one against the Patriots, take care of business over the seas, and then get fully healthy. But let's jump into the questions. Thanks first and foremost to everyone that submitted questions. I tried to get to as many as possible each week. But let's fire things off right away with a question from Benjamin. The question reads, if Xavien Howard and Jalen Ramsey are back this week, do you show your full defense against the Patriots or save some back for next week's game against the Chiefs? Now, I think that the Patriots, kind of like what I alluded to earlier, the Patriots and Chiefs are different enough to the point where I don't necessarily think you'd have to hold anything back. Obviously, kind of contrasting play styles with the Chiefs, which we'll talk about ad nauseam next week. But it's Travis Kelce. And the Patriots really don't have a player like that. They're more so your running backs, your short, higher percentage completion type of throws. So it's a little bit different as to how you would game plan in general. So I don't think you need to hold too much back. And the last thing I'll say is that when Fangio and the Dolphins brought in Jalen Ramsey, I think the idea was, yeah, he can play boundary, but he can play slot. He can play safety. You can line him up closer into the box. I think Fangio will get creative, and once Ramsey is healthy, use him maybe to that full capacity. We'll see, but I don't think you're going to show too much against the Patriots to really have that worry against the Chiefs. Let's go to this next one here from John. With all of the studs we currently have out or on IR, yes, we just talked about that. Guys like Jalen Ramsey, Devon Achane, Teron Armstead, Connor Williams, etc. Which are you most excited to have back? This is a great question, and it's almost like a tease, like because you just want all of them back. I think I'll default, as usual, to the offensive line, either Connor Williams or Teron Armstead, both equally important. We really, really want Connor Williams back, it seems like, with Liam at center. But man, that offense, it runs through Tua, and it runs through keeping him clean and having that protection up front. So yeah, I think I almost have to go with that. But I just talked about Ramsey and how all offseason there was nothing I was more excited for this secondary that had Xavien Howard, Jalen Ramsey, Javon Holland with Vic Fangio. Like, man, he's got all these weapons. What's this defense going to look like? And we've just been waiting, and now we're so close. So Ramsey's a good candidate as well, but how about Devon Achane and his 12 yards per carry, just bursting onto the scene? Obviously, this offense loves explosive playmakers, and man, he proved that he's already one of these guys. So hard not to choose him as well, but I kind of took everyone, like I said, but I will default to the offensive lineman, probably Connor Williams with Teron Armstead being right there as well. These next couple of questions are trade line related. This one coming in from Jimmy. Put in a trade deadline deal for Derrick Henry. So yeah, obviously this offseason, we made some plays at running backs, the Dalvin Cook stuff, the Jonathan Taylor stuff. And if you look at it now from, what are we, week 8, you're like, I'm kind of glad we didn't get Dalvin Cook. I mean, these Dreads are already allegedly rumoring that he can be available for trade. And the way our running backs have stepped up, it's like, yeah, I'm kind of glad we didn't get him. And in a roundabout way, I almost feel the same way about Derrick Henry. Now, don't get me wrong, Derrick Henry is unbelievable with his size, speed, everything he can do, even as a pass catcher out of the backfield. But even after the Eagles kind of shut us down in the running game last week, even with that statistical output, we still lead the league in rushing yards per game. We still lead the league in total rushing touchdowns. Raheem Mostert's been a huge part of that. He's been reliable as well. Jeff Wilson is obviously back now. We just talked about Achane coming back as well. I don't necessarily think that I would want to give up assets for another running back, given the surprise that this unit has given us so far, and given that Wilson just got back and Achane will be back as well. Next one here, any trade deadline moves you'd like to see? Quite honestly, it sounds like Mike McDaniel just wants to get his normal guys back from the injury report and from IR. So I think just with the sheer amount of roster decisions that they'll have to make with creating space, adding a player at the trade line doesn't seem quite as likely this year. But if I'm giving an answer, it's kind of what we talked about a few weeks ago. It remains offensive lineman, whether it's a starter, whether it's a depth guy, because clearly we're already on to a lot of depth guys, or that linebacker spot. And I say that knowing that David Long has played pretty well. Throw on some of his tape against the Eagles, man. He was a menace. He was just a menace out there, and he's been doing that throughout the year as well, especially in the run game. Jerome Baker obviously had the pick 6. Now, I would say the linebacker, just because we could use some guys at the position can maybe cover a little bit better. Where's Channing Tindall? He was supposed to be able to be this kind of not do-it-all linebacker, but a guy that could help in coverage. And we honestly haven't seen him. We know that the guys we currently have are a little bit of a liability. We know Travis Kelce is on deck. So, yeah, a guy like Levante David or Frankie Louvu out of Carolina, those would be great. Those are the names that we've heard kind of rumored around the Dolphins as well. But at this point in time, if they make a deal, I don't see them giving up a ton. Those guys would help. You know that the Dolphins have their pieces that maybe they'd like to move. We've talked about Cedric Wilson, even though wide receiver's a little bit slim right now, so maybe we're not as willing to move him. Emmanuel Ogbah, now that we have Phillips back, maybe a guy like Emmanuel Ogbah could be moved, whether it's for a player or a pick. Keep your eye on those kind of things, but kind of long story long, because I rambled on that one. I don't necessarily think we're going to see any moves on the deadline. But we'll see. This was a funny question. I had to ask this one. So for you guys that don't know, my wife had our 3rd child on Tuesday. So it says, how do you scheme? I like the football reference there. How do you scheme your family and yourself to keep all of your duties with the new baby? Maintain your performance producing Dolphins videos. We don't want to see you on IR anytime soon. And I appreciate that. And I love the football references. And I was a big fan of looking at it from the Dolphins perspective. It's like, I can't go on IR. We don't have any spots left. I mean, we're running out sooner than later. But no, all jokes aside, fit in recordings whenever I can. You'll see my background's a little bit different. I'm not even at home recording today. I'm just trying to get away from the chaos for a little while. But my wife, like I said, we've got 3 kids. She's been holding it down. She's doing great. Family's doing well. But I got to say, before I get into my final score prediction, appreciate all your guys' support. It's the great comments. It's the support. It's all the likes on the video that keep the motivation going, knowing that I've got all the 3 that are 3 and under at home. But this is a nice little escape from that as well. So I appreciate all the support that you guys have shown. With that taken care of, though, I think the Dolphins take care of business. I think we get win number 6. I think Tua stays unbeaten against Bill Belichick. I've got us winning by 10. I talked about it earlier in the week that it kind of feels like a survive and advance week, kind of like it felt against Carolina when you're playing with backup left tackle, backup left guard, potentially backup center. We talked about the injuries in the secondary. X is not a guarantee to go. Holland's not a guarantee to go. We don't know if Ramsey's going to be back. Needham still hasn't come up. We just got to continue to stack up as many wins until we can get this team right, which we probably won't be right until after the bye week, and that's barring anything new happening as well. So it feels like survive and advance, but at the same time, we talked about it in the Keys to Victory video. Get Mac Jones kind of pressured a little bit. Get him off the spot. Make him throw balls that he's not really wanting to, because he does throw a lot of high percentage passes. But if you can get him off that spot, if Fangio can mix up the defenses enough, I think you can get him rattled a little bit early, and it changes the game. And then unlike week 2 when we played them, we had them down at halftime. We had them down, and we kind of just kept making these little mistakes that let them get back in there. You don't want to do that. It's kind of cliche. You don't want to let a Bill Belichick team hang around. But at the end of the day, it feels like survive and advance, but we are the better team. On paper, we're at home. We've already got a win against them. It's time. You just got to go out there and execute. Survive and advance, win by 100. I don't care. Get it done, because I'm already excited for that next week game overseas against the Chiefs as well. But that is what I've got. I do want to hear from you. Drop your predictions, your final scores, everything you've got in the comments. Let's carry on the conversation there leading up until game time. Enjoy this one, Dolphins fans. We'll be back at some point after the game with a recap. But until that time, Dolphins fans, Fins